Hey everyone, and welcome back to Deadlock Intel, your number one source for all things Deadlock, Valve's newest 6v6 shooter. We had a small patch yesterday that came with some nerfs and some buffs for some heroes, so let's check it out. Before we get into the heroes, there were two general updates, the first being that the Urn Lead Requirement was increased from 8% to 10%. If you don't know what that means, in the last patch they actually updated the urn so that for a team to be considered in the lead, they had to be at least 8% up in soul count. Once they were considered in the lead, there were changes to the location that the urn had to be returned. If you were the winning team, that is, you were 8% up on souls, that meant that you had to return the urn on the losing team's side. And like I said, that has now been increased from 8 to 10%. The other general change was Majestic Leap, with the cooldown reduced from 45 seconds to 40 seconds. Majestic Leap took a massive nerf last patch on the 24th, with the cooldown being increased from 26 to 45 to begin with, so 40 seconds is still a lot higher than it was. It also still has the fact that when you get shot in the air, it disables the drop down ability. So to me, this 5-second change isn't really doing much for the item. Now taking a look at the heroes, first we have Shiv. For Shiv, they were focused on killing blow. The cast range was increased from 13 meters to 14 meters. The rage per weapon damage was increased from 0.015 to 0.017, and drain rate was reduced from 0.3 to 0.25. Shiv was also heavily nerfed in the last patch, so this just seems to be tuning it back just a little bit, trying to find that happy middle ground. I feel like Shiv's a really difficult hero to actually balance properly, just due to the nature of his kit to begin with, where this killing blow ultimate ability instantly kills people under a certain threshold. That, along with the rage mechanic and how fast it drains or how fast you build it, is always going to be difficult to really hit the nail on the head. He was definitely way too strong before the last patch, but right now he seemed okay to me, where good Shiv players were actually still doing alright, they just weren't dominating. And bad Shiv players were bad, which is how it's supposed to be. Next up, we had Bebop, who I considered to have been buffed, but some people might say he was nerfed, and let's talk about why. Everything for Bebop was focused on the sticky bomb ability. There's been a lot of back and forth to Bebop's kit and how strong Sticky Bomb is going to be, going through a lot of different iterations. One of the biggest things in this update being that stacks no longer decrease on death. That's how it originally was, however they changed it to you losing a certain amount of stacks on death, but now that will no longer be the case. And just that on its own, I think, is huge for Bebop players. Now there's a reason they did this in the next point, but regardless, now a good Bebop player is going to be able to retain their stacks and not lose them no matter what. Now the reason they were willing to do that in this iteration of Bebop is because Sticky Bomb now gives stacks based on dying heroes hurt by Sticky Bomb within a 12-second buffer. Whereas previously, it was just anyone hit with the bomb would automatically get stacked. So the meta for a long time was just stick it on a trooper and punch it into the enemy. And with the massive radius that it had, it was really easy to get those stacks. Because of that, people became just insanely powerful with these stacks, which is why the nerfs happened to begin with. So they changed their viewpoint here, and instead of making it harder to keep the stacks that you have, they are making it harder to get them. So similar to what I said with Shiv, I feel like this is where we're really going to start to see a skill gap between bad and good Bebop players. The good Bebop players are not going to have a problem with this. A 12-second buffer is a pretty long time, and that's similar to people like Talon and Mo and Krill, who get stacks in the same exact way. But the bad players who could only stack by putting a little bit of damage on the opponent and never killing them will not benefit the same way. On top of this, they're also making Sticky Bomb stronger in general. Now the damage per stack was increased from 3 to 5%, Spirit Power damage scaling was increased from 0.9 to 1.2, and Tier 1 was improved from minus 7.5 seconds to minus 8 seconds. The overall cooldown was also reduced from 19 to 18 seconds. So Sticky Bomb is going to be up more often and do more damage both per stack and as you level up and get more spirit items. Ultimately, to me, it means that you are not losing your stacks on death, and it is now stronger. In my opinion, a buff. Talon was buffed last patch and is now being nerfed back a little bit, as move speed spirit scaling was reduced from 0.04 to 0.032, and bullet damage spirit scaling was reduced from 0.13 to 0.12. Talon felt really fast in this last patch, but I don't think Talon players can complain too much, as Talon is still having that scaling with move speed, and it didn't get taken away like it did before. For Kelvin, Ice Pass cooldown was increased from 38 to 42 seconds. As a Kelvin player, I don't think that's a big deal. It's fine. If you're building for Ice Path, then it's going to be up pretty frequently to begin with, so I don't see this as a massive nerf. McGinnis also had a few updates as mini turret spirit resist was reduced from 80% to 70%, meaning they'll take more damage from spirit abilities. Spectral Wall's cooldown was increased from 37 seconds to 46 seconds, so almost a 10-second increase to the cooldown of Wall. However, the tier 2 cooldown was improved from -14 to -23. Also a 9-second change. That just means that early on Spectral Wall is not going to be up as often, but once you get tier 2, it's going to be the same as it was before. For Paradox, Pulse Grenades tier 3 was reduced from +1 meter per pulse to +0.75 meters. That is in response to, again, that last patch with a huge buff to Paradox, as duration now scales the Pulse Grenade. People who were building for Pulse Grenade were insane. Those grenades were so hard to get away from, and they're still going to be. That's not that much of a reduction. For 7, Stormcloud's DPS was increased from 110 to 120, not too crazy of a buff, and Yamato's Shadow Transformation cooldown was reduced from 90 to 85 seconds. And that's all there is for today, guys, in this patch. Let me know what you think about these changes, if there are any that you disagree with. This is Deadlock Intel. I'll catch you next time.